So first we're going to start off by talking about the scientific method, and you have a paper that has these. I'm going to go ahead and click off of these, and we're going to look at them and discuss each portion of this, going through the scientific method. This should be an easy way to help you learn the scientific method and know the steps. So first, my student studying scientific method, you tell them first starts the problem. What's the first part? The problem. The problem is a question that needs to be answered through the scientific method. The problem is a question. 7 steps will make you feel some type of way. The problem, question, and it will start that way. 7 steps to the scientific method. The first part is the problem. Number 2, research will make you feel some type of way. Hold up, look it up, and then you can go on this way. Second part is the research. How do you research? You look it up. Hypothesis, I guess you feel some type of way. Yeah, guess. Show you feel some type of way. Hypothesis is a guess. It tells how you feel. Doesn't necessarily have to be right or wrong. Experiment is what the procedures say. Step by step, let's get through the day. The experiment is also known as the procedure also known as the experiment, and it's step by step. Recording data, yeah, write what it say. Analyzing data, yeah, interpret what it say. Recording means to write it down. Analyze means to interpret, make sense of what it means. Now we at the end, and I know you hearing me this way. So what's up? What your conclusions say? Again, that's the end portion. What is your conclusion? That's the last part. 7 steps scientific methods say. There's 7 steps to the scientific method. Now this is a song, and if you want to hear it in practice, then you go to the next video or the other video in the YouTube so that you can learn the song, so you can learn the scientific method. Now we're going to discuss the things that come along with doing the experiment. You have controls and you have variables in an experiment. So, for instance, your control for the experiment, you want to make sure you're writing down or you're reviewing or pausing the tape so that you can say it out as you're studying. This is a good way to study. So, do that, or take out a blank piece of paper and see if you can answer it. So, first off, your control is the part that stays the same. It remains the same. There is no changing in it. It's going to be what remains constant. It's your control. It's going to stay the same throughout the entire experiment. And we're going to talk about an example in just a moment. Variable is what is changing. That comes from the word varies. A variable like in math would be like if you had 2x plus 4. You can make x whatever it is that you want it to be. That's the changing part. It's the part that's going to change when you're doing the experiment. You're going to constantly change things. You have an independent variable and a dependent variable for variables. They both are things that change, but the independent variable is what changes by the experimenter. It's what the experimenter is doing. Who's the experimenter? Whoever is doing the experiment or the procedures. The dependent variable is another thing that changes, but this is the result. What happened? What were you looking for? So what was the end result? Now let's take a look at something we do every single day, or we've done often, how to make Kool-Aid sweet. Now, that's going to be our question. The first thing I'm going to do is use 1 gallon of water every single time. Because I'm using the same amount of water every time, this is my control. Again, I'm using the same amount of water every time, so this is my control. The first time, I'm going to use a half a cup of sugar. That's my first trial. I'll use a half a cup of sugar. And then I taste it and I see it's not sweet. So the second time, I'm going to use 1 cup of sugar. And then I'm going to taste it and I'll see that it's kind of sweet. And then the third time, I'll use 1.5 cups of sugar, and I'll check it and taste it, and I'll see it's really sweet. Now, looking at all of these trials, let's decide what the variables are. Variables, what's changing. So we're changing the amount of sugar that we're using, and the sweetness of the sugar, the sweetness of the Kool-Aid also changes. So now I'll pause the tape and identify what the independent variables are and the dependent variables are. Remember, the independent variable is what's changed by the experimenter. What is changed by the experimenter? Now, if you chose the amount of sugar that is used, then that is correct. That's the independent variable. I like to label it as ID, independent variable. What happened? What's the result? Because of the amount of sugar we used, the sweetness changed. So that's the dependent variable, also identified as DV. So again, when you're studying, you want to pause the tape and you want to re-review these things, or even think about different things that you do in life and identify those. So now we're going to look at scientific method while texting and driving. The problem is it okay to text while driving, even if you do it carefully? We did this in class, so I'm just going to go over the results. You should be using your brain to research, thinking about times that maybe you've encountered texting while driving. Maybe you were in the car while texting, someone was texting and driving. Maybe you know someone who was texting and driving. And then I want you to label or number the steps of the scientific method. So 1 was the procedure, 2 was research, 3 was hypothesis, 4 is the procedure. So again, 1 is the problem, 2 is research, 3 is hypothesis, 4 is the procedure, 5 is recording data, 6 is analyzing data, and the last part is 7 is the conclusion. So as we're going through the procedure, you all drove in a simulated car and you received text messages and you had to read them and respond. Again, before we get started, look at the research and brainstorm what it is that you are doing. Now again, think about the times maybe you've been in the car with someone texting, something you've seen on TV, somebody has been in the car with someone while texting, you know people who text and drive. Think about all of these things and jot down one thing that you've observed or experienced with texting and driving. And then in addition to that, you need to come up with a hypothesis. That was a yes or a no answer to is it okay to text while driving even if you do it carefully. And then we went through these procedures that I just mentioned to you, and we had a lot of fun in class with driving a simulated car, getting a text message, and sending a text message. And in doing those things, we recorded the results that we had with each person that was driving and texting. So these were the results that were posted for a class period. If you look here, you will see we received some text, meaning we read them, and also we sent some text. All of that is texting. Whether you're reading it or you're sending it, it's all texting. So then we tallied up the amount of times that we received the text, but we also went ahead and recorded if there was an accident or not during that time of driving. So let's take a look and see the amount of text that was happening overall with all of our texters that were texting. 14 total. Looking at the 14 times text, out of the 5 times driving, only once there wasn't an accident. 4 times out of the 5, we encountered an accident. So we now need to analyze that data, which means we need to interpret it. What does that mean? Let's answer the question. Is it okay to text while driving even if you do it carefully? Well, according to our results, no. It's not okay to text while driving because 4 out of the 5 times we were in an accident. Your conclusion then needs to tell about your hypothesis. If you said on your hypothesis, it was okay to text while driving, then you would have to put my hypothesis is incorrect. If you said on your hypothesis, no, it's not okay, then you would have to put my hypothesis was correct. And this concludes the lesson for this day.